Yeah. Usually so loud. Everybody's ready. Let's get started with check-in, and Amy already tilted it over this way, Rob, so.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Robert Dodig. I am well. We have Alex Borzanski won't be here this evening, and Teresa Bowen, I'm not certain. I have no time constraints, no elephants. Expectation is to make progress.
Good evening, I'm Christine Schroed, I'm doing well. Missing have been noted. I do not have any time constraints, I do not have any elephants, and same expectation to make progress.
Good afternoon, it's Amy. I'm sorry, I do have a time constraint today at 5:30. No elephants, and I expect that we make progress.
Hello everyone, I'm Kevin Kelty, I'm doing well. No time constraints, no elephants, and expectations are to make progress.
Good afternoon, Fernando Vasquez. I'm doing well. The missing are noted, no time constraints, no elephants in the room, and expectations to make progress.
Good afternoon, I'm Roger Lloyd, I'm doing well. Missing has been noted. I do not have any time constraints. I do not have any elephants, and I would like to continue to make progress as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jason Kurtz. Missing has been noted. I am amazing. I do have a 6 o'clock time constraint, and my expectation is to make progress.
Hello, Cheryl Neely, I'm doing great, and I have no time constraints. I don't have any elephants, and I want to make progress.
Good evening, my name is Candy Messenger, I'm Director of Food and Nutrition, I'm doing well. Missing has been noted, no time constraints, no elephants, and continue to make progress.
My name is Barbara Cedino, Director for Maintenance Services. I'm doing well. Missing as noted, no time constraints, no elephants, and expectations the same to continue making progress.
Of course, McIntosh, I'm doing well. Missing has been noted, no time constraints, no elephants, and expectations to make progress.
Thank you. You can pass it back.
Hello, my name is Arlise, and I am doing well. Missing is Lois. Oh, sorry. Do I need to start over? Oh,
Okay.
Missing is Lois, no time constraints, no elephants, expectations, make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Patrice Coates, I am amazing. Missing has been noted, my time constraints is 5:30, no elephants, expectations is make progress also.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Chris Cox. I'm well.
Is it on?
Missing's been noted. I have no time constraints, no elephants, expectation, make progress as well.
Hello. Excuse me. My name is Deborah Evans. I'm doing well. No time restraints, no elephant. Expectation is to make progress.
Hi, my name's Laura Rosen. I'm doing great. Missing's noted, time constraints 6 o'clock, elephants none, expectations make progress.
Hello, my name is Roderick Wilson. I'm doing great. Missing has been noted, no time constraints, no elephants, expectations, make progress.
Good afternoon, I'm Victoria Davis. I'm doing great. No time constraints, no elephant, expectation is to make progress.
My name is Amy French. I am having the worst allergy attack, so I'm not crying because of bargaining. Everybody's here, I don't have time constraints, or I don't get some expectations to help you make progress.
And good afternoon, I'm Donna, I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted, and my expectation is to help you make progress. All right, with that, we have heard a number of people who are leaving at 5:30 at 6. Do we need to make adjustments to the schedule? Because I heard several people over from SPALC that are leaving and several from the district. Or you just want to play it by ear? See what's going on at the time. Rob?
Yeah, I think we can play it by ear. I also, 6 o'clock sounds, I think we can get done what we need to get done tonight in a couple of hours. A lot of what we're doing depends on Dr. Desmore, and she's leaving at 5:30,
Right.
so. And I'm looking over at our lease because we met last week, so, to preview what we're gonna talk about today, so she's aware of that. So, otherwise, we can stay till 7 if everybody wants to do that,
Okay.
but, I hear you.
Yeah, all right. We'll see where we are then. All right, with that, minutes? Yes, Arlene.
We don't have the minutes, Rob. None of us could find the minutes.
I sent them to you
I wrote today to make sure I assisted.
We was looking, we couldn't find them.
Maybe I didn't send it.
Where you sent it, and then it's sitting someplace else.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
I have them, but I didn't send them, so.
He thought he sent them, but he.
I will send them from here in a minute, but I know we don't have a chance to look at them, so we
No.
can review them next time.
So we'll just have to.
Sorry about that, Arlene.
That's okay, thank you.
All right, well, with that, the next item on the agenda is calendar. This is the last scheduled meeting, and I know we don't plan on getting everything done tonight, but, yes, Kevin.
Well, I always wants to say something.
Yes, we can do the presentation first because
Okay.
Ms. Donna, what we did when we met, we gave them the dates that we were not available.
Okay.
Right, and so, since Amy got to leave like in 20 minutes, we can just do the presentation.
No, 5:30.
Okay, I had a moment, I'm thinking it's 5 o'clock already. But yeah, we can.
Yeah, 5 o'clock somewhere, as they say.
I'm speeding it up. We can do that last.
Calendar last?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just don't want to do it when people are starting to leave, so. Yeah, Rob.
So that leads us to the agenda item, which is compensation.
Compensation.
And I'll just sort of preface where we're going. So we have a lot more information from Evergreen. And last week's session was postponed or canceled because we needed to work through that. And then we met with Arlise and Lois in the middle of the week last week to discuss the status of the salary study and how we go forward as bargaining units together, frankly. And so we're going to present to you all and to our team, who's seeing it really for the first time also, some of that information so we can work through it. I will say this, it is somewhat difficult to understand. It's a lot of data, frankly, and if you're not a real numbers person, you really have to kind of work through it, including myself. So that's why the numbers people are to my right to present here today, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay, all right, so Amy, you're on. Right here.
Right, good. No issues, no problems. Okay. All right, so as Rob said, we received some information from Evergreen, which I believe in a presentation that Rob did a couple of meetings ago, We prefaced some of it or talked a little bit about some of what we had planned on receiving. So now we've got some stuff that we wanted to make sure to share with you. So first of all, over here in this area, and I'm gonna blow this up just a little bit so you can see it a little bit better, knowing that it's gonna take up more than the whole screen, but I'll just talk it through. So first of all, they dealt with us on some market peers. There's 20 of them that are on this list, and many of them are school districts, but some of them are not. Some of them are government agencies, such as like the City of Cape Coral, Charlotte County, the City of Fort Myers, Lee County, that is the government of, because they are our competition as well. And so we have a list of 20 peers that were on the list either because, again, they're governmental agencies that are close by. Collier is another one, Collier County, as well as schools. They're either close by to us or they could be very comparable to us in size. And also they're comparable to us in terms of what is the official cost of living index for them. For our county, our cost of living index is 104.1. And so meaning 100% at being at the average, we're higher than the average, right? In order for, our cost of living expenses. And then you see where the rest of our peers on this list lie as well. Some of them a little bit below, some of them well above. But those were our list of peers that they went and kind of tried to find some additional information of to compare our salaries to theirs. At the end of the day, our number of peers that we tried to get into was 20. We ended up with 16 of them that we're working with data on, and you see these are the 4 that there wasn't enough information to get out of them to really incorporate them into the information that we have. And then they also tried to compare all of the jobs, apples to apples in terms of what are our jobs based on our job descriptions, and then also as we describe them within those job assessment tools that all of the employees did. And they tried to compare those to the same job in all of these other places to make sure that they were making an apt comparison. And then there are some, of course, that really didn't have any match. So they said there were 13 that didn't necessarily have a match, but that's okay. The majority of them did. We know that, there's not necessarily a match everywhere for every job that we have. So that was the information in terms of how they compared us to some of the other people. So when we talk about the market study, these are the organizations that we're dealing with in which we were compared to come up with the information that we have. Overall, and I think that Rob talked about this in the original survey or in the original presentation that we did when we talked a little bit about the salary schedule study. So they have some information in terms of overall or on the average what the market study showed for us. So at the 40th percentile, right? So if we were going to look at the 40th percentile, which means that it's about on par with where 40% of the population is doing. 40th percentile they have on here because when we started building the market rate started at the 40th percentile as far as the rate that was set for those market studies. So they took the 40th percentile of that survey and then compared our current salaries to it. And so you see we're kind of on par with what the 40th percentile is, which makes sense because that's where we kind of built the market rate at that point. But of course, we're trying to increase our salary, so we don't want to stay at the 40th percentile. We told them, give us some information of what it is above that, because we want to go up, not stay the same, and certainly not do anything less than what we have. So they gave us the average of how far behind are you, so to speak, if you were going to create your salaries at the 50th percentile. And they gave us 3 different points for that. So you see here where it says survey minimum, the midpoint, and the maximum. So they're looking at overall minimum salary average, overall maximum salary average, and then overall at the midpoint of those salaries, how do your salaries compare to what those show? So if we found at the 50th percentile, we're about 5% behind at the midpoint. about 5%. And at the 60th percentile, about 8% at the midpoint. So that's kind of where we started in terms of just kind of overall information, overall data, what does the market rate show? So now we're gonna get into actual positions and how they gave us the information on those positions. And please don't hesitate, if you have any questions while I'm going, just ask them right out. So let's go to the market results, and I'm gonna go, you see there's two tabs under here, one is at the 40th percentile and one is at the 50th percentile. I'm going right to the 50th percentile because that's really what we want to be talking about. We don't want to, again, we don't want to stay where we were, we're trying to come up. So again, they have some information here. These are on the, and I'm gonna blow this up a little bit. I know it's gonna be, you can't necessarily see the whole entire thing, but I'm just gonna blow it up so you can see. So if I start at the top, just to kind of get you familiar with what's on the sheet itself, on the left, there's every job, every SPALC job that we have kind of listed down the left-hand side. We have noted that there's a couple of job titles that are missing here. And so we've asked them, hey, where are those job titles, to make sure that we get all the information for those. So as we go through them today, you might find some that you were looking for that weren't on there. Let us know what those are, because we'll keep going back and make sure that we got all the information that we need. So again, there's three. There's the survey minimum, the midpoint, and the maximum. So the survey minimum gives us the average of what is the minimum salary on average for a particular job for all of those people that were identified as our peers. So that's the minimum average of all of the peers. That's not ours, that's the minimum average. And then it shows how far above or below our current minimum salaries to that peer average. Same thing for for midpoint. They say, okay, what's the average midpoint of the salary for that job amongst all your peers? And then how far is our midpoint salary above or below for that particular job? And then this is the average maximum for that job for all of your peers. How far is on your salary schedule is your maximum above or below that average? So this is what all of that shows, right? So for any of these that you see that have three different numbers, right? A percentage in the minimum, a percentage in the midpoint, and a percentage in the maximum, that is a job that is on our current step and grade schedule. So it's got a minimum salary, it's got a maximum salary, there's a midpoint, so you'll see numbers in all of those three. But for the numbers that are market rate, for the jobs that are market rate, there's only one rate for that, a market rate. So all you will see for that job is a comparison to what the actual midpoint is on the range. So that's basically how they took the data to compare it to us, since we only have one rate for a market rate, which really is a little unusual when you look at some of our peers and what they do as far as how they structure their salaries. So just to take us through like a couple of examples of them, there is, for example, a bookkeeper position, which is a step and grade position for us. And so at the minimum, our peers, this was the average minimum salary. Our minimum salary at the 50th percentile is 1.8% below that average. The average of our peers at the midpoint is this 2268, and our salary at the midpoint is 6.2% below that number. And then the maximum salary, 2744, an average of the maximum salary of the peers. And then our maximum salary, 7.3% below that average. Or for a position on the market rate, say this position here, we've just got one number here, as you see. So the midpoint average, $20.90, our particular survey is showing 16.3% below that average in this particular job. So that's how we get all of this information or interpret all of the information that you see here. And as you see, there's a lot. It lists every single job, and well, at least all the jobs we know. Again, we know we're missing some, but then what the comparison to the market showed us. So what this is it's a piece of data. It's a piece of information. It's one piece to the puzzle, which was, and a very important piece to the puzzle, because we needed to understand specifically how we compare to our market peers. But then we also have to take into account other things that we know are factors within our own organization as well. Recruitment in certain positions, retention in certain positions, how certain positions are utilized in our county versus how they might be in others. All of those things are important things to take into account, but this is a very important piece of information that we said that we needed in order to really effectively structure what does a new salary structure or salary schedule look like for us, and how do we want to address our different positions and how we place our different positions on a salary schedule, given information that we have about how those salaries compare to other people around us. So then, now our job, ours collectively, the hour in this room, our job now is to say, all right, based on this information that we have, how are we going to use Evergreen to help us create options, or what new salary schedule or salary options could look like? Some of the things that Evergreen has talked to us about in theory, that they need some direction from us as to how do you want us to go, what directions do you want us to go in, what options or what things do you want us to structure for you, at least as suggestions, right? So that we have some information and then start to work off of, work against, and create the plan that we think is the best for us. So one of the first things that they talked about was, well, you want to talk about potentially this one right here, bringing people to a new minimum or to their closest step, right? So if we were going to take some information in that market study and then try to create a different salary schedule or a different salary structure, and then somehow place positions and then therefore people on the salary schedule based on those new hourly rates or that new salary, then everyone in those positions has to be brought to a certain minimum, right? So that's it, an option. And when I say an option, of course, there's not necessarily one option. There's going to be mix and match of these potentially, but these are the things that we need to be thinking about as we're structuring the options that we want. Another one that Evergreen talked about was what they called class year parity. That is how long, giving somebody credit, so to speak, for how long that they've been in a particular position, current position that is. So all right, you're in your current position for X amount of time, therefore you might get more or higher placement in a salary schedule than someone who hadn't been in that position for that, the same period of time, which therefore starts to pull apart some of the compression that we've talked about at the table so many times. One option. Another option is what they call higher year parity. And in higher year parity, that basically takes the time that a person was hired into a regular position in the district. So it's not about your current position, but it's just about being hired into the district. So therefore, you might have a different placement on the salary schedule based on how long you've been here, right? Employed regularly with the district, which again, starts to pull apart some compression. And then they talked about a hybrid year, or that is you may want to do a combination of those things, right? That you might have class year and higher year, you take some mix of the two, you create a hybrid of them, and so there's a placement on the salary schedule that takes both of those things into account in some way, again, with the effort of, or with the thing in mind, with the idea in mind of pulling apart compression. So that is kind of the the nuts and bolts, the overview of the information that Evergreen gave us to work with so far, and now looking for our direction to them as to where do you want us to take this information from here, and how do you want us to work it into some potential options for you. One of the things that I think is important for us to communicate, because we know as different people call or have questions about or want to kind of dive into this information, dive into the data, understand what it's really saying. This is one piece of information, and it's not the be-all, end-all of everything. It's just a piece of information, and important, but it doesn't necessarily mean that when you look at this particular structure that, okay, well, somebody in this position is going to get a 16.3% increase, or somebody in this position, which is showing above the current market rate data, you know, maybe doesn't necessarily get anything because they're above the market rate data. That is not at all what this is supposed to be trying to portray to us. What this is trying to portray to us, or what we should try to interpret out of it, is this is some information to help us guide what we believe should be happening in whatever new salary schedule that we structure. We certainly have to take into account our own circumstances so that we are best meeting the interests that we have outlined, best meeting the interests that we believe all of our employees have, and also taking into account our own, our own circumstances, as we talked about a little bit earlier, which positions may be more hard to recruit for than others, which things do we think, sometimes there is a blip in the market and certain things climb in rate because of certain things that happen, like hurricanes in our area, whatever the case may be. But that might not be a completely accurate reflection of what market will be 3 months from now or 6 months from now. So we want to take those things into account. All of those things are things that we need to think about so that we don't necessarily take every single one of these to be so literal, but that if we just use it to guide where our direction, where we want to go from here. So I'm going to stop for just a second to find out if anybody has any questions.
Therese?
Thank you so much, Dr. Desjour. I just want to take a step back, hopefully not too far back, but I just want to find out what were some of the objectives that were posed in the RFP to Evergreen in regards to, I guess, who you all compared, because it seems like you just went to Florida. There was nothing outside of Florida. That is correct, right? There were no areas outside of Florida that we were compared to.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
The list you saw was the list. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I guess I'm just curious, why didn't we go out of Florida?
So thank you for that question. A good one. So we have the option to do different things in different phases outside. We felt like based on where and you asked what I forget how you worded it, but what the original objectives were, right? So the original objectives were to help us gather information related to salaries of our competitors in our market, and then to help us structure new salaries or new salary schedule that would make us more competitive in the market. Those were the original objectives. We worked with them in order to come up with our market rate peers that we had. Based on our data, we at least thought that we had information to say that our Florida peers were our tightest competitors. In other words, anybody can go anywhere in the world, right? So I completely understand that. But in terms of who we found that we compete with the most, we compete with those people who are here within the state. So we thought, let's go with our first pieces of information to see, based on our competitors that deal with the same environment, the same criteria that we do, we're going to do the comparison to those people, and also those are the people that we find are our fiercest competitors. That is, when we lose people, we lose them to these people not necessarily as much outside. So that was where we came down to our market comparison list.
Okay, so you're saying that the competitiveness is within our market around us and not other school districts outside of Florida? Are you saying we're not losing people to those school districts?
I didn't say that we weren't losing people at all to those people. I was saying our biggest competitors are those inside of the state.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I know it was a lot of information for those seeing it for the
It was.
first time.
I know it was. I'm sorry that it's a lot, but I think it's good because I think that people were waiting to see what did it bear for us. And I also wanted to follow up on the question that you were asking, because I think I hear or feel the spirit of it, at least, and if I'm misinterpreting, you tell me, that it's, you know, our competition is everywhere. It's like all over the country and it's all over the world, and how are we comparing to those things? And I hear you on that, and I think that it's true. I mean, our competition is everywhere, and so, but I think that in terms of trying to create the steps that we were going to take to get to a more competitive place, more immediately, and more centered and focused on those people that or those arenas that we know we lose to most often, it was probably just a better deal to try to say, okay, well, let's start here in a little bit of a microcosm, and then as we figure out exactly how we want our salary structure, that we can continue to grow it as we look farther out for, you know, other competitors as well. Right. So this isn't the last stop, it's just the first stop, right? And we knew from the beginning, and we had talked about potentially a multi-year phase-in approach for how we were gonna get to exactly where we wanted to get to with whatever we're structuring. So we know we may not be able to jump and get to exactly where we want to in year one. Neither by the options that may come out of the information we have, and definitely not out of a market survey where maybe we would have been compared to places in New York or California or Japan, or you pick the place that the economic circumstances, the funding structure, the cost of living may not be the best comparison for us either.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was sort of my spirit of question as far as global, just a global direction. So thank you for that.
Anybody else? Elise?
You want to?
All right, Laura.
Okay. Hello. Two questions. Was there any recommendations as steps and grades again, or is this?
No recommendation for that as of yet. I think they are waiting for us to give them give them feedback as to the direction that we want to go, right? They talked about in structuring an option, they can do a couple of different things. Step and grade was one, of course, they talked about, and they also talked about another mechanism that basically they call open range, which is just a range of, you know, this job can make anywhere from this amount to this amount, and then people are placed somewhere in the range based on some set of factors. So they talked about both things. I think as far as that is concerned, the direction really is up to us.
So that range, is that similar to the market rate that some of the categories have? Not all, everyone is, some people are still kind of step and grade, but it's not really there. And then there's the market rate.
So you were asking, right. So you were asking if the open range is similar to the market rate, and I think not really, because the market rate, at least as we have implemented it, is one thing. It's one rate. A range would be just that, a range of dollar amounts that a person can make in the same job. But it is our intent, Rob was just whispering to make sure that I said, it's our intent to make sure that everybody is on the same thing. Right now, we're not. Some people are step and grade, some people are market rate. Our intent is to make sure that everybody, whatever mechanism we're using, is on the same thing. And what that thing is, I think really is at our direction based on, I'm gonna sound like I'm listing interests at this point, but based on transparency, right? We want people to understand what the salary structure is, how they're placed on it, what they can make, or what they make and what they can make based on what the salary structure is. So clarity, people can understand it, and that it puts value where we want there to be value on based on what our philosophy as an organization is. So whatever we feel like that is, if that be step and grade, then that be what it is. And that's the direction that we give them. If it be something else, then that's the direction that we give them. Or if we don't really know, maybe we're asking them, this is kind of what we're thinking, give us some options of how that potentially could look.
And is there more talk of the compression with helping the compression with these different phases here?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Which was why a couple of things that they talked about in terms of the class year and the higher year and hybrid year, right, really are the things that they talked about are different ways that we could use to help pull the compression apart, because it's trying to put some value on how long a person has been here, either here period or here within their particular position, and then placing some additional value on that, which then pulls apart the compression on the salary schedule. So those are some of the things, options that they had talked about, or ways in which we can try to address compression in the new salary schedule that is being structured.
And would we be able to get a copy of this PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, want to pass it to Arlise, please.
Amy, can you please, because I just want to make sure we are understanding as much as possible. I would like to ask you to go to a couple of positions, maybe like electrician. Can you go over that one, and bus operators, just to explain to everybody the data, because I just want to make sure everybody understands.
I will. Okay, so here highlighted in line 23 is the electrician. Can everybody see where they are? Do I need to blow that up a little bit? It's good? Okay. So electrician appears to be a market rate position because I don't have any information here and any information here. So the minimum average of all of our peers that we surveyed here looks like this is the minimum average, looks like to be $22.10. The maximum average, $32.08, and the average midpoint at $26.94 of our peers. So this is the average midpoint, that $26.94. Our current market rate is 5.4% below that. At the 50th percentile, that is correct. So am I answering the question that you were asking to go through that?
Yeah, I just wanted you to go through a couple more of them just to make sure everybody, understands.
Then you said bus operator?
Yeah, I'm just calling
Okay, right here. So on bus operator, the survey average minimum at $18.05. The average maximum at $25.95. And the average midpoint average midpoint, right? Y'all check my words, I'm saying a lot, so I'm starting. So average midpoint at $22.50, and the current market rate we have is 19.1% below that.
And
Should I go
can
through what you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can you do one more? Can you do, security? Let's just see what that looks like.
Hold on, let me search. Yeah, security specialist, but we don't have that listed here. That'll be one we'll have to write down and get back with you because I am not seeing it on this list. I searched for security and that, I found one, but that wasn't the same job. And I don't see anything else on here.
Okay.
So we might have discovered another one that, for whatever reason was not on this list, but we need to make sure we get.
Okay. So, Amy.
Duly noted.
Okay, your choice. Can you give us, an example, of a position that's right there at the market rate?
Right there at?
Or?
Well, here's one that's pretty close. Our HVAC, refrigeration, and chill water mechanics are showing just a little bit, 0.7% below. So that's one that's pretty close to being right on, according to this data. Just scrolling through, that's the closest one, ma'am, that I see without going over. Yeah, 0.7 was less than that, but yeah. Here's another one, that's at 1.3%, an equipment operator, below. So that was pretty close, and then there are several on here that are above as well. I don't know whether you wanted to look at one of those. A generator mechanic is showing above the midpoint based on our market rate of that. In this particular case, 17.9% above. Am I answering the question?
Yes, ma'am, you
Okay.
are. Amy, can you go over the area of focus again? Because that was a lot of information.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I just want to make sure they understand, that section.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
So these were just some of the areas that, as Evergreen was kind of talking to us about, how we take some of this information and other stuff we give them and create something that's a new salary schedule out of it. What things do you want to think about and what could you do? And a couple of the things that we could do are, and none of these necessarily are meant to stand alone by themselves. It could be you take one, or it could be you take a combination of different things. So none is meant to necessarily stand on its own. But we could talk about bringing people, here in the purple, bringing people to the new minimum or the closest step. So when we create a new salary schedule, whatever that looks like, for ease of me talking about it, I'll say if it's on a step and grade, which we're all kind of familiar with, there's a new step and grade, and these new step and grades have new hourly rates, new grades attached to them for different positions, and new hourly rates and new minimums and maximums above all. And so based on everybody's current salary for a particular position, you would look at, all right, what's the new salary or the new hourly rate for that position based on what the market data showed us, plus all the other things that we want to take into account. That position now becomes a certain grade on the new step and grade salary schedule, and people are brought to the new minimum of that particular grade, or placed on the closest step of that particular grade based on, what their current salary rate may be if they're beneath the minimum, right? So everybody's brought to a new minimum because all of these positions now have been revalued and recalculated to new hourly rates, new whatever. So that would be the bring to the new minimum. Then they also said, okay, but you also told us that you told us, focus groups told us, your job assessments tools told us that you all feel like you have big issues with compression, that people don't feel like they're adequately placed on the salary schedule based on how long they've been here. You may want to consider doing something with the class year. So take a look at each of these individuals and how long they've been in a current position, and based on if somebody's been in a current position more longer than someone else, they're placed differently on the salary schedule, on a different step, or something based on that. And that is pulling apart compression, which is what they call class year parity. Or you could also examine someone's hire year. So looking at two people in the same position, but one was hired before the other one, then how are they valued differently in the salary schedule? One might be placed on a different step than the other one, which gives them some additional dollars, which again pulls apart that compression that we've talked with them so much about. And then the hybrid method, or that is taking a combination of both of those things. If you take into account someone's hire year, someone's amount of time they've been in a position, take some percentage of each of those things or an average of those things, and then use that to place people differently on the salary schedule, which again helps to pull apart the compression that we've talked about. So those were just some ideas that they gave us in terms of when you're giving us direction of how you want us to go, you might want to consider these things, because these are things that we structured and done for other people. These are things that are taken into account in other people's salary schedules, so certainly you may want to think about that stuff.
Chris?
See if I can explain this properly. Am I to understand that you're going to take that midpoint number, and are you looking at all three of those scales? So in other words, regardless of what you decide to implement as far as these different options, you can't get all the way up to the highest scale? Is that what I'm understanding?
All right, sorry, come again with your question, try to ask it. I want to make sure I'm answering it right. Come again for me.
You're showing the ranges, high, low, medium, and high. Right. So if somebody had 25 years, they'd be at the highest range now, regardless of how you implement these different options here. Am I to understand that would be, you're looking at that high range scale, you're not trying to bring everybody to that midpoint, correct?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So, I don't know. So no, okay, so I think the answer is a couple of things. No, we're not necessarily saying that we're trying to bring everybody to that midpoint. These are pieces of information. So these are all of the surveys that they did. This is the average, minimum, midpoint, and maximum for each of these different positions. Our salary schedule that we end up implementing might be different than this. It's not necessarily going to be the same minimums, midpoints, and maximums, but it's going to be something structured based on this information that we have here, plus other things. Once we structure like a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum for a position on the salary schedule, so to speak, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to be geared to the midpoint. It is how will people be placed on the salary schedule based on the options that we're trying to pick here. But it's not, the goal wouldn't necessarily be try to gear everybody to the midpoint. The goal would be to figure out how are people going to be placed on the salary schedule based on what we're choosing, like the options that we're choosing and where we want to try to go. So some people, based on what the structure may be, might be placed closer to the minimum because they just got here and the minimum still is more than what they have now, but maybe they just got here versus someone else that may be above the midpoint because they've been here for quite some time. So it's not necessarily a structure of the midpoint, it's a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum gives us a range of the salary on the new salary schedule, then everybody has to be placed on that range accordingly. Am I answering your question?
I think you did.
Okay.
Again, I was looking really, I guess from the market rate, what you did with the market rate last time was more than midpoint range, and I was concerned about that. So you're saying you're looking at it all, high, medium, and low.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Cheryl. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's part of the work that we need to do together to figure out how we think that should be working.
Amy?
Sorry, what?
Barbara has a question.
What?
She gets that mic and she just does not want to let it go.
Sorry, I just had a question. I think it's tied to what Chris was asking. It might be, I'm not sure. So let's say that prior to market rate, some of the employees were at that step and grade, and then when market rate was implemented, that employee potentially could have been above the market rate. So how does that work, I guess, in this model, in that scenario, with the low, medium, and max?
Yeah, well, I think I'm not sure that I can answer the question because this is a piece of information. This is not necessarily a model, right? This is not about an option. But I think theoretically, right, if we're trying to get to something, you're saying, so what happens to a person, they were on a step and grade before, and then we went to market rate, and then their current salary, when we went to market rate, was above what market rate was. So when we switched to market rate, they kept whatever their hourly rate was, and then they might have gotten some increases as we've gone along the way, depending on what happened in any given year. So then what happens to that person when we place them on the salary schedule? And I think that answer is, well, to be determined based on our option, right? I think whatever job they're in, it's like, so what's the job and what's the range for that job? If they're still in the job, then it would come, I think, first to this purple, we're gonna bring them to, based on their current rate, what is their closest step, right? So that is one option to say, okay, we're looking at everybody and on that job where they're gonna be placed on the current step, not necessarily want anybody to lose in the process, but then what happens to people who come in after that, right? Depending on how that particular job is valued on the salary schedule, it could be, well, that people that come in after that, they're not getting near that because that's just not how the position was valued, or maybe it was. So I think it just depends on the circumstances and how we decide to do things. But I think in our thought process or in our minds, the old step that somebody may have been on, either if they're on it currently or if they were on it before market rate, it's almost like it's old news, it's gone, because there's a new pay grade and there's new steps and there's new values associated with them. So where do they get placed on that new one based on what their current rate is, based on how the new position is valued in the new system, all of that. I don't know if I effectively answered the question that you were asking, but okay.
Anybody else? What?
Can I see, it was one position that was like behind 32.1%. Like 32.1.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't see what position it was.
Okay, got it. Document specialist.
Okay, so positions like that, my question is, how will we bring them up to a point that's comfortable since they're so far behind, and it's the point of I can see some groups they're so far behind, they'll get lost again. Get lost in the mix again, because that's really far behind. And with what we were offered, that really wouldn't help groups like that.
No, so I was gonna say, again, that percentage is one point of information, one piece of data, right? To be able to look in to see, all right, what is this position structured like for us in our district? How many do we have? Does that pricing kind of, does it fall in line with where we think it should be inside of our salary schedule based on all the information that we have? But then once we say, okay, we believe that we understand what a placement should be, then I think part of the options or part of the things that we have to think about when we're giving information to Evergreen to help us structure is we may not, and we knew from the beginning that we may not be able to get there in one shot, right? This may be a couple year or a multi-year implementation, but maybe over the course of 2 or over the course of 3, we'll be able to get there with some of the different positions who may be more, we want to try to increase them double digits or more, right? Related to their movement as opposed to some others who maybe, they were looking at 0.7% or 2% or whatever the case may be. So I think the answer to that is we can get there. It's just we have to figure out how are we going to get there and over what period of time are we going to get there. And ideally, it is a short period of time. It's a short window. Like nobody's trying to drag this out 5 years, 4 years. Nobody's trying to do that, right? So ideally, it's a short period of time, but we need to figure out in our options how we structure to get there in a lesser period of time, but very likely more than 1 year.
Thank you. That was basically what I was concerned about, because market rate increases all the time. So my concern was if you give 5% here, then now market rate increases, now they're lost again. So it's like you're continuously playing catch up and you're never reaching that target goal.
And I think the important piece to remember as we start proposing options, I just want to reiterate something that Dr. Vestimore said is all of those represent positions, but on some of those, there are only maybe 1 or 2 of those types of people in the district, and other ones have hundreds of them of that type. So, focus I think needs to be on for us as a collective group to how do we impact the most people, with our options. And I think the second piece of that, and she said this several times, but just I think it bears repeating, is that this is information from our counterparts across, the state and our area. But in some cases, we may have a position that we are underpaying, so let's say according to the mid-rate there, but we have lots of applicants and we have no problems filling those positions. There might be positions that we are actually paying above the rate and we still have challenges filling those positions. So I think those are all things that the teams have to consider.
Thank you, Jason. Anybody else? Laura?
Was there any thing brought up about job description titles changed or job descriptions changed in this, brought back to the table from Evergreen?
Well, from Evergreen, not necessarily specifically. They did say that they felt that there were definitely some things that we could potentially do to try to skinny them up, or like combine some things, do some things to clean up like our job titles, job descriptions, stuff like that. So yes, but I think the conversation or the comment to us was more in the generic, and we had gotten into the details of so specifically what with them on that.
Anybody else? Trace?
Okay, I think I want to go back to the summary with the COLA, or with the cost of living index. And it says that Lee County is 104.1. And to people that don't understand what COLA is, can you explain where we are in regards to our counterparts? What does this mean? The index.
Yes, I certainly may be leaving something out with the mechanics, because the index itself, I'll talk about it theoretically. I'm not exactly sure, like, all the things they put into calculating and all of that, but it's supposed to be an indicator of how expensive is it to live in the place where you live. And so if 100% is the benchline, or is the baseline, then if we're 104.1, then our cost of living here is higher than what the baseline is, 4.1% higher, right, at 104.1. And then you see the other people who are, or the other organizations rather, who are listed here and what their numbers are, ranging anywhere from a little under 100, 99 point some in Charlotte, all the way up to, I think the highest was 117.8. And so those organizations, they give us that information because that's something to know. That's a piece of information to know. We're doing an average of all of these different people. The average, oh, thank you. It's the national average, Kirsten says. So thank you. Right, national average being 100. So, so therefore, that's an important piece of information to know, because everybody's, of course, cost of living is a little bit different. So when you're comparing, you want to make sure that you're comparing to people whose cost of living is comparable to you. Logic would kind of say, okay, well, if the cost of living is a little bit more expensive, then those salaries will be a little bit more expensive as well. So the average that is being calculated will kind of take that into account. And so we have to take our own cost of living into account when we come up with whatever our final options are. So that's just, so Kirsten, did I miss anything related to, okay.
Okay, so the cost of living adjustment and I remember when I was in corporate, we would get a COLA every single year, along with our salary. Since I've been here for 14 years, I don't remember ever getting a cost of living adjustment. And a step, matter of fact. I'm now on, I found out a couple of years ago, I was on market rate. Had no idea. So I'm trying to see, will COLA be included in our new salaries? And will that be adjusted yearly, or, I mean, because usually you're supposed to get COLA. From my past experience, we used to get it every year because the cost of living can change every year. And that's my question. Will that be a consideration now, going forward?
So I think the options for that are up to us. So in the past here, our salary increases, I mean, they are increases, but we've not been in the habit of calling them a COLA. It's a salary increase, right? So which is a COLA, can be classified as a COLA and plus some, depending on what a percentage may be for that given year. But we've not called any part of our salary increase in the past a COLA that I remember. But if we wanted to consider something like that in the future with our options, we certainly can discuss it here and come up with what we think our best options are. Am I missing anything with that response?
No. Rod?
He said no, but I feel like maybe I did.
Rod? Thank you, Amy.
So I think Dr. Desmore's clarified it perfectly. However, I'll just add some numbers. So last year, the COLA for Social Security and SSI, which is the federal benchmark, was 3.2%, and we provided an 8% pay increase. So that's why I think Dr. Desmore's statement is, we call it a raise, it sometimes matches the COLA or is higher than the COLA. Some years it has not, frankly, depending on what the number is.
It's just the way you report it.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
Yes. So to potentially take that a little bit further, is if we increase the whole salary schedule, that might be interpreted as a COLA. So everybody's affected by that. And then you can move on the salary schedule if it is a step. So potentially every year or every couple of years, we change the whole salary schedule and then have a corresponding increase as well as that.
Anybody else?
Did we not answer your question? Is it okay? Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
What we tried to do, or what we thought maybe we could come out of at least this conversation today is, we know what our bargaining authority is right this year. We have now some information that have been anxiously awaited, and we want to try to use this bargaining authority to at least partially address some of the information that we have here and try to come up with structure options that would incorporate this information that we have here, as well as all of the other interests that we have. We all know what date it is. It's May 20th. We're almost to the end of the year, so we know that we won't get there next week, but we do believe that with the identification of some dates this summer, we could have conversation and get to some options for us that then we would be able to talk with everyone about when the school year started back and hopefully be able to ratify something very soon after the school year starts if we continue our work over the summer and try to incorporate this information that we have to most effectively use the bargaining authority that we have this year. So we have a considerable amount to put into the options that we can structure together based on the information that we now have.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Rob?
No, I was just gonna,
Okay.
I don't know if that means we move on to calendar, if that's.
Yeah, that'd be
what our
fine,
needs-
because I think our people still need time, right? To digest it the way we did.
Right.
We had time, so if they can, yeah, we can move on the calendar and then give them time to digest it and, yeah, thank you.
So
Okay.
if, and I have a number of dates that are not available, so that Arlise and Lois gave us, that also
Okay.
include some of their members of their team. Okay, so I just want to say this up front. The district is going, if you're not a 255 employee, the district will pay you to be here on these days. So those of you that are not 255, obviously we have to make sure that happens, but I just wanted to advise you of that. So the other thing is, Arlise, I wanted to ask, we wanted to do this earlier in the day, right? So not from 4 to 7, but from like 2 to 5. Would that be okay?
Well, they said, yeah, that'd be
Okay.
good, or
Okay.
even, Patrice said even earlier.
So,
Yes.
Right, no, I know.
No person.
We all work, so,
Oh, I forgot
Yeah.
about it, we forgot about this now.
yeah, so I think, yeah, later in the day, but
Yeah,
not
we
too late
forgot.
in the day, I think is better.
We forgot the most important
Right.
part.
Yeah. So, and I know Donna, if she's available, will try to make herself available.
I will.
Yeah.
I will be gone for a
So
couple
here's,
weeks, but-
and if we could maybe choose 3 dates, even though we may only need 2.
Okay.
So here's dates where we could be available. I'm just gonna list them and then let's pick them. June 17th, June 18th, June 20th, July 15th, July 16th, July 17th, July 18th, and July 31st. And there's not more because of the dates that I was given and some of our team too. So,
I know, it's vacations, and I know as far as SPALC goes, there's a lot of conferences and trainings and
Yeah.
all that stuff going on in the summertime, so. Conventions,
and if,
Arlene?
Rob, kind
Yeah, go
of fast. So Rob, can you go over the dates one more time? please?
sure, these are possible, June 17, 18, or 20, or two of them, whatever we want to do. And then July 15, 16, 17, 18, and 31st.
Thank you.
And I know some of you may have, I tried to stay away from a conflict from the 4 people that Lois provided me, which is Arlise, Laura, Chris, and Patrice, sorry. We'll make sure we have a quorum, even if we don't have everybody.
So, anybody have any preferences they want to?
6:18 what? Well, we're gonna kick you out. No, so erase 6:18. Okay, so.
So,
that we're-
cross off the
If we
18th.
keep eliminating dates, we're
All
not gonna
right,
end up with it.
eliminate
so-
the 18th.
But I hear you.
So,
So 6:17, okay?
6th, 17th, 18th, and the 20th is okay.
We just said the 18th isn't okay,
Oh, the 18th is not.
because there's gonna be a training in this
Okay.
room.
No 18th. So yes, the 17th and the 20th is fine.
All right, 17th and 20th.
Yeah, that's
for
good,
SPALC.
17th and 20th, and then we just need another one, potentially.
And
15th of July?
yes, I
Okay.
think the 15th would be okay.
Okay. 2 to 5, yes. That was pretty easy.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yes, July 15th. Yeah, go ahead. So Dr. Detsmore is suggesting maybe 1 or 2 more, just for,
Whether, we may not need them, but if
So
we
you-
do, they're blocked off.
so we only have the
We're busy.
16th, 17th, 18th, and 31st left, so which ones do we? Yeah, of July.
Any preferences for July dates,
17th?
other than the 15th?
Yeah, we can do, the 16th and the 17th.
So 3 days in a row?
You should be able to handle it, right?
I'm making sure you're
You need a
okay.
break, man, just let you. Yeah, I'm just trying to get it over with.
No, I know. And if we, just kind of a heads up, we'll try to do them in here, but if we need to move around the building, we may have to do that.
And, you know, not everybody's gonna be able to make all of them, it is summertime, and we know people go on vacations. So,
But that's 5 days, right?
so that's 5 dates
Yeah.
we have, yes. All right, so we have Amy, June 17th, 20th, July 15th, 16th, and 17th, from 2 to 5 p.m. Can I see thumbs if that's okay with everybody, or you can live with it? Do your best to get here. Thank you very much. Those are the next dates.
And I'll just say this, just because we have 5 days doesn't mean we have to use them all, so.
That's right.
Group dynamics tend to sometimes use dates if they have them, so I don't want us to be stuck with that.
Yeah. That's correct. All right, go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, I was just saying, just clarifying, if we don't have another meeting together until June 17, then can I ask, based on, I know we just talked about a lot, but based on our conversation, is there anything, like any information or any, I don't want to use the word options, but any direction that you want to give or that we believe that we want to give to Evergreen now so they can start trying to build something that maybe we can come back on the 17th and try to discuss. So if you have some feedback or have some direction, what would those things be?
And I
No, I
think
mean,
Marlene
yeah,
said
well, I was
they need
just
some more
saying-
time to digest, but if you
Yeah,
can have a meeting sometime and then get back to,
Yes.
Yeah, we will, Amy. Let us, talk with our team and then try to see which direction they wanna go in, and then we'll let you guys know.
Right, okay, all right, thank you.
all right, anything else for this evening? We done? What, Amy, go ahead.
Just was wondering, based on everything that we talked about, whether there was a way, anybody was thinking about a way that we needed to be able to communicate any other information regarding this to employees so they kind of knew what the status was or anything outside of, just being able to watch this. Because I want to make sure that we're facilitating, conversation, communication with people as much as we can. So if there's any ideas about that, we're all ears.
Right, Rob.
Yeah, so Arlise, if you don't mind, maybe I'll put something in a draft form as to where we're at with SPALC bargaining, and I'll send it to you all. And then, we can fine tune it, just so we can give people an update as to where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, Amy, for mentioning that.
Since a long time between this meeting and the next meeting. Good idea, Amy. All right, anything else? All right, I guess with that, we are done for this evening. We will see you June 17th. You have some studying to do. And June 17th is 2 o'clock and place to be determined, I assume. Yeah, I get, there's a lot of training going on.